Hello learners, we have seen directing function in the part 1 and we have discussed that there are 4 elements in the function of directing, that is supervising, leadership, motivation and communication. In part 1 we have discussed about supervision, motivation and leadership, and in this part we will discuss about the important element of the function of directing, that is communication. Communication is also termed as the lifeblood of any business. What is the importance of blood in a human body? Blood, any part of the body, it can work, or it works only because of the blood circulation, because the blood is circulating all over. Likewise, unless the communication is flowing properly from one place to the other in the organization cannot work properly. That is why we say that communication is the lifeblood of any business organization or any organization for that matter. So, there has to be a proper communication. Directing, when we talk of the function of directing, one of the important elements of directing function is communicating, and as we have discussed that it basically involves issuing instructions to the subordinate about the work, what to be done and how to be done. So, unless this issuing of instruction is very clear, is very effective, the subordinates are not really going to get exactly what they need to be done or what is required from them. So, the communication is to be very important and it is to be effective. In this session, you will learn to use different kinds of communication in an organization. You will also learn the importance of communication, and we will discuss various barriers to communication and ways to overcome it. So, what is communication? Let us see. Communication is a basic organizational function which refers to the process by which a person, who is also known as sender, transmits information or messages to another person who is known as receiver. So, when I am talking of communication, or when I am saying the word communication, it means it involves two people or two parties in the organization or at a place. One has to be the sender of the message and the other has to be the receiver of the message, or someone who is giving the communication or sending the communication and the other who is receiving the communication, right. So, one has to be sender and the other is receiver, but the position of sender and receiver changes in the organization. Once sender would not always be the sender. For instance, suppose I am the manager in the organization, and if I am issuing instructions to individual A, B and C, that A is to look after sales department, B is to look after finance department, and say for example C is to look after the administration department. So, what I am doing, I am trying to issue instructions, I am sending the message, and Mr. A, B and C, they become the receiver. Once they do the work, once they complete the work, they are going to report it back to me, right, to their managers. So, Mr. A is reporting back to me. Now, Mr. A becomes sender and I become the receiver. Similarly, when Mr. B is reporting, Mr. B becomes sender and I become receiver. And likewise, when Mr. C is reporting, Mr. C becomes sender and I becomes receiver. So, one thing is important is in communication that there has to be two people or two parties, sender and receiver, and the position or the status of sender and receiver changes in the organization. The purpose of communication in organization is to convey orders, instructions or information so as to bring desired changes in the performance and or the attitude of employees. As I said, the sender is sending some information to the receiver. So, there has to be purpose, there has to be some motive of the communication. So, the purpose of communication is to convey orders, instructions and information to the receiver or to the subordinates so that they can perform effectively. Likewise, the subordinates, they have to report to the manager, they have to report to their seniors so that they can also ensure that whatever work has been assigned to them, whatever task has been given to them, it has been done, it has been completed properly, right. So, proper communication results in clarity and securing the cooperation of subordinates. If the communication is clear, if the communication is proper, that means the same message is being given or is being sent to the receiver, and if the same message is being sent to the receiver, the work will be accordingly. But if the message is distorted, for some reasons or the other. That means the clear message is not being sent to the subordinates. The clear message is not being sent to the people working in the organization, and when the message itself is not clear, how can their work be exact, or how can their work be according to the plans or schedules or the assignment that has been given to them. That means the distorted communication or distorted message would affect the work of the people in the organization adversely. Faulty communication may create problems due to misunderstanding between the superior and subordinates. As I said, if the communication itself the message itself is distorted, if it is faulty, it will lead to an adverse situation, and the subordinates must correctly understand the message conveyed to them so that they can work properly, or so that they can work as per the requirement of the organization. So, as I said, there are two parties in the communication. There is sender and the other is receiver, and in between there is a message which is being communicated from one party to the other. Communication does not always flow from supervisor to subordinate, it can also be from a subordinate to a supervisor. As in the beginning of this session, I told you that the position or status of sender and receiver changes in due course of time. The same person may be sender at particular point of time and may be receiver at the other point of time. As I gave you example also, that when I am giving as a senior, I am giving instruction to Mr. A, I am the sender and Mr. A is receiver. But when Mr. A is completing his task and reporting it back to me, Mr. A becomes sender and I become receiver. So, that is why we say that communication is always it is two way, it is not one way in an organization. So, supervisor issues instructions to the subordinates, and subordinates they report it back, fine, and they tell that yes, the work is being done and the problem is being solved. Now, we see the importance of communication. The proper communication, if the proper communication is there, if there is a possibility of proper communication in a business organization, it improves the quality of output. It is being shown with the arrow that top level, middle level and lower level, all these three levels are being shown as the managerial level in the organization. If we talk of there are different people working in the organization, and if we try to categorize them as per the hierarchy in the organization, we can categorize them in three levels, that is top level management, middle level management and lower level management. So, if there is a proper communication amongst these three, it improves the overall quality of the output, because it enhances proper coordination also. It also improves the quantity of output. As I said earlier, it improves the quality of output and also the quantity of output because of the proper coordination between all these three levels. So, it helps employees to understand their role clearly. If we communicate exactly or without any distortion to our subordinates, they understand, they know what their role is in the organization, what they are supposed to do. It helps in achieving coordination and mutual understanding also, because when I said in organization people are working, and if I say organization is a system, system consists of various subsystems, and when I say subsystems, that means they are interlinked and interconnected. Interlinked and interconnectedness means that they are affecting others and they are getting affected by others. So, there has to be a proper coordination between all these departments, various departments in the organization. So, if there is a proper coordination, if there is a proper link, it becomes much better for the organization, because the quality and quantity of output both it increases. That is why we say that proper communication helps in achieving coordination and mutual understanding, and it improves managerial efficiency, yes of course, and ensures cooperation of the staff also. It helps in molding attitudes of the people working in the organization. As I said, people who are working in the organization, they are active resources and they are very, very important in the organization. So, if they are working with proper attitude, if they are working with positive attitude, the outcome would be different. But if they are working with negative attitude, their outcome would be adverse, of course. So, it is important to make their attitude better in the organization. So, in directing function, to make their attitude better, to make their attitude positive, what is important is to communicate them with them properly, right? And it helps to build up employee morale. Again, even we are talking of, when we are talking of trying to increase the morale of the employee, what is important is to communicate clearly and properly with the subordinates, with the people working in the organization, so that they may get the feel of belongingness in the organization. It is a means, that means communication is a means for successful delegation. In an organization, we need to delegate the work. We may not do all the work all alone. So, we have to delegate the work properly to the subordinates in the organization. And for proper delegation, when I am delegating a work, there has to be clear message, there has to be a clear instruction from superior to subordinate. Then only the subordinate will be able to work properly. And it is a means for successful decentralization. Again, when I said delegation, that means I am trying to divide my work, I am trying to give away my work to someone. That means I am trying to decentralize. So, if we understand the concept of centralization and decentralization, means everything which is being done at a single place, at one place, that means centralization. And if the division of work is there, that means it is decentralization. So, if our aim is to decentralize the work, then communication becomes even more important and all the more important for the organization. Now, let us see what can be the different types of communication. There can be communication from superior to subordinate, then there can be communication from subordinate to superior, and then there can be communication from one superior to another superior of same level. This is also called as gangplank. When we are trying to communicate at same level, say for example, middle level manager, say Mr. X, is communicating with middle level manager Miss Y, that means there is a communication between the same level, and this kind of communication is also termed as gangplank. Again, the communication can be of various types, that is oral, written and gestural. It can be formal, it can be informal. So, let us see what is formal or informal information is, or what is oral or oral or verbal or gestural information is. As the term suggests, when we say oral, that means something which is going orally or which is speaking it out, right? That is oral information. Non-oral or non-verbal is, that means which we are trying to communicate through some either symbols or acts or maybe gestures. So, for example, if I am showing a smiley face, that means I am happy. So, the communication is the team member or the senior or subordinate is happy, and if I am with a frowning face, that means I am not happy, dissatisfied. So, this is gestural. So, likewise, let us understand what is formal communication, what is informal communication, and what is upward, what is downward, what is horizontal, diagonal, and what is verbal and what is non-verbal communication. Channels of communication. The path through which communication flows is called as channel of communication, right? Again, as in the previous slides, I have shown that from seniors to subordinates, that is the channel. From subordinate to senior, maybe upward going, that is the channel, and at the same level, that is horizontal. Again, that can be a kind of communication, and that can be diagonal, from individual from one level to communicating it to individual from another level, but from a different group, right? From a different people, that becomes the diagonal communication. So, the path through which the communication is flowing is called as channel of communication. Now, let us see formal communication. The paths of communication which are based on relationship established formally by management are the formal channels. For example, the general manager communicates a decision to the production manager, who may then issue orders or instructions to the foreman. This becomes formal communication. It may also be like a worker applying to his supervisor for a loan from the GPF account, right? This is also formal communication. Although it is upward, it is going from lower level to top level, but it is a formal communication. Then he or she forwards it to the manager accounts, who finally sends it to the general manager of finance for approval, same level. So, that is horizontal communication. Now, if we see with that example, what is this formal communication? From general manager, production manager and foreman. So, foreman has applied for a loan from GPF, the message has been sent to production manager, foreman will talk to his superior, that is production manager, and then production manager in turn would talk to the general manager for the loan approvals, right. So, foreman applied for the loan and the communication is passing or flowing through this path. that is channel of communication. Informal communication, communication which takes place on the basis of informal or social relations among staff is called informal communication. No one has asked you to communicate with someone, right, but still you are communicating. For example, in an organization there are various groups which are formed, which is not being formed by the people intentionally, they are formed unintentionally. People of same behavior, same attitude, or like-minded people they get to form groups, and they may take lunch together, they may take short walk together. So these are all informal groups, and information among this kind of group is known as informal communication. For example, any sharing of information between a production supervisor and an accountant, as they happen to be friends or so, that becomes informal. They were not supposed to, they were not asked to, but they communicated. Why? Because they were friends. They both were, say for example, they were having their lunch together, and during their lunch they discussed something or they shared some kind of information. So there was a flow of information from say A to B, but the flow of information is what? The path of information, the channel of information is informal. Mostly informal channels are used due to friendly interaction of the members of an organization. If there is friendly interaction amongst a group of people in the organization or amongst few people in the organization, these kinds of communication would be there. In fact, it may be purely personal or related to organizational matters. It may be personal or it may be organizational also, but the path, the channel, the flow is informal. That is why they are called as informal communication. Now again discussing it, the kind of communication, if I said upward, downward, horizontal or diagonal. When I say upward, that means communication which is flowing from subordinate to senior. When I say downward, that means kind of instruction or any information which is being flown from the superior to subordinate. Horizontal, when the communication is at the same level, middle level manager A and middle level manager B, they both are communicating, that means that is horizontal communication. And then diagonal communication, right? Someone from say middle level is talking to group B or team B of top level. There may be several team, there may be several department. Say for example, if I say lower level management people of production talking to middle level management of finance department, that becomes diagonal communication. Upward communication, as I said, when it is flowing from subordinate to superior. When employees make any request, appeal, report, suggest or communicate ideas to the superior, the flow of communication is upward, that is from bottom to top. So there can be reports, there can be requests, so that makes upward communication. When a foreman reports breakdown of machinery to the factory manager, the flow of communication is of course upward. The foreman is what? Informing. It is reporting that there is a breakdown of machinery, that becomes upward communication. Upward communication encourages employees to participate actively in the operations of their department. They get encouraged and their sense of responsibility increases when they are heard by their supervisors about problems affecting the jobs. Downward communication. When communication is made from superiors down the hierarchy, it is called a downward communication. For instance, when superiors issue orders and instructions to subordinates, it is known as downward communication. Any kind of order, any kind of information which is being flown from supervisor or superior to the subordinates, then that becomes downward communication. The message is flowing from up to down, that is why it is downward. When the general manager orders supervisors to work overtime, the flow of communication is downward, that is from top to bottom. A downward communication may be in the form of assigning some kind of work, that is work assignments, and issuing some kind of notices or giving some kind of notices to the subordinates. Now let us talk of diagonal communication. When communication is made between people who are neither in the same department nor at the same level of the organizational hierarchy, it is called as diagonal communication. As I gave you example, that say for example, people, lower level employee of sales department is interacting, is talking, is giving some information to the middle level employee of finance division or some other division, maybe purchase division or department, that becomes diagonal. Neither the level is same nor the department is same, that becomes diagonal communication. Now let us see verbal communication. As I said, when we are communicating, when we are passing some information through words, when we are speaking, that becomes verbal communication. So on the basis of the modes used, communication may be verbal or non-verbal. While communicating, managers may talk to their subordinates either face to face or on telephone, or they may send letters, issue notices or memos. These are all verbal communication. So verbal communication may be oral, may be written. We may speak, there has to be words. It is either we are speaking it or we are giving it in some written form. That makes verbal communication. Oral communication, face to face communication, as in interviews, meetings and seminars, are examples of oral communication. Issuing orders and instructions on telephone or through an intercommunication system is also oral communication. That means oral communication is always face to face, right? The written modes of communication include letters, circulars, notices and memos. Since we are talking of organizational communication, that is why we are talking of letters, circulars, notices and memos. Now we will talk of gestural communication, that we are not saying anything, we are only waving of hand or smile or frowning. These are all called gestural communication. There are various barriers also to the effective communication. So it is very important to see what all those barriers are. There may be semantic barriers, psychological barriers, organizational barriers and personal barriers. Semantic barriers take place when the sender and the receiver of the message interpret the words, sentences, symbols, etc. differently. That is semantic barriers. It may be symbols, words with different meanings, badly expressed message or faulty translation, or maybe unclarified assumptions. What are psychological barriers? Psychological barriers are lack of attention, poor retention, premature evaluation and distrust. All these are examples of psychological barriers. Organizational barriers, when rules and regulations are such, or maybe status or organizational policies or complexity in organizational structures, they may all cause organizational barriers and may hamper the proper flow of communication. Personal barriers, fear of challenge of authority, lack of confidence in subordinates, unwillingness to communicate and lack of proper incentive, they all form barriers which is termed as personal barrier. And how to overcome these barriers? If we talk, communicate according to the needs of the receiver, because unless the need is being communicated, the receiver is not taking interest. So according to the needs of the receiver, communication is to be there, and clarify the idea before communicating. One has to be good listener also, and then follow up communication. Once you send the information, you should also follow up whether the proper message has been communicated or not, or the receiver has received what you intended to send or not. So in this session, we have learnt use and different kinds of communication in an organization, importance of communication as an element of directing, and various barriers to communication and different ways to overcome it. So learners, with this, I wish you happy learning. See you again in some other session. Thank you.